Okay, year 5, I am now back with chapter 5, part 2. Just to recap what we read yesterday, we know that a procession of ghosts were coming towards Lila as she insisted on becoming a firework maker in front of Razwani, who first of all asked her if she had the magic water from the goddess and whether she had bought the 3 gifts. Lila had neither, and now this procession of ghosts was sort of edging towards her. So let's find out who these ghosts are. And they speak. Beware, look at me. I came without the 3 gifts. Alas, take warning from me. I hadn't worked at the craft and I wasn't ready. Maiden, turn back. I was arrogant and headstrong. I didn't seek the water from the goddess, and I perished in the flames. So these ghosts are almost dissuading Lila to continue with her dream, become the firework maker, because they're telling her she's not quite ready to become a firework maker. She's not prepared. Wailing and weeping, the ghosts passed across the lake of fire and vanished into a crack in the opposite wall. That's what happens to those who don't come prepared, said Razwani. But now you must submit yourself as they did. Walk into my flames, Lila. You have come for the royal sulphur. Receive it from my hands. And he laughed louder and spun in a rapid dance, stamping his feet in a wide circle and causing a ring of fire to blaze up around him. Through the lashing red and yellow and orange, his face seemed to waver and flicker, but his voice rang out clearly over the roar and cackle. You want to be a firework maker? Walk into my flames. Your father did it in his time, and so did every artist in fire. This is what you've come for. Why are you waiting? So he's really persuading her and encouraging her. She was terribly afraid, but she knew that she must do it. She'd rather be a ghost than go back empty-handed and fail at the one thing she had ever wanted. And what does that tell you about Lila's personality and character? That she'd rather be a ghost than go back empty-handed. It shows how sort of strong-headed and resilient she is as well. So she took one step forward and then another, and her poor feet burned and blistered so that she cried out loud. Then she took another step, and when she knew she could bear it no longer, she heard a great sound behind her, like a mighty trumpet, and through the blaze a voice was shouting, Lila, the water, take it, take it. So who might that be? A little think, who has got the water and whose voice might that be? And there was a small figure beside her, thrusting something into her hands, a gourd, a drinking gourd with a clasp that she tore off, before lifting it to her parched lips and drinking deep. So what do you think the word parched means? If she's brought the water and she's drinking it, she's lifting the gourd to her parched lips. So think about which word you can use instead of parched to still make sense in the context of that sentence. So parched would mean dry, very, very dry. And it's interesting how the writer uses repetition for drinking. Drinking deep. It's almost kind of showing us how much she's drinking, and it kind of really emphasizes how thirsty Lila actually was as well. All at once, a marvelous coolness spread through her body and down to the tips of her toes. The pain vanished, and the dryness in her throat and lungs was soothed and moistened. At the entrance to the cave, behind her, she could see Chulak shrinking back and covering his face from the heat, and she could see Hamlet fanning him with his ears. But she was in the heart of the fire, facing Razwani once again, and the flames were harmless now. They played like fountains of light. They rushed up her legs and arms and across her face like darting birds, and she felt light and joyful, as if she were a flame herself, dancing with pure energy and joy. So you can see how the description is quite contrasting the description of the flames initially, where they were very sort of, they were red flames and they were flickering and they sounded very ominous and dangerous. And now the simile of the flames, like fountains of light. It's almost like the same flames, but now we're seeing the positive of them, and we're seeing them actually as as a source of light and something positive, whereas before they were sounding rather dangerous. And also Lila's been described a bit like a flame herself, so dancing with pure energy and joy. So the vocabulary has become really positive. And the imagery that you're now getting is not as scary as the one we had before when she first came into the cave. So you have done it, Razvani said to her. Welcome to the flames, Lila. And the royal sulfur, she said. Ah, when you reach the heart of the fire, all your illusions vanish. Didn't your father tell you that? Illusions? I don't understand. So, illusions is when perhaps you perceive something to be real or to exist, but it may not be. And it may feel real, but it's not. So what is Razvani trying to tell her about the flames? Why they were an illusion? Were they actually as dangerous as she thought they were? And also, is fear an illusion? When you're fearful of something, is that fear actually real, or is it your illusion, your perception of something? Does it seem scarier, but then when you actually do it, something might not be as scary? The royal sulfur doesn't exist, Lila, said Razvani. Razvani, there is no such thing. Then how can I be a firework maker? I thought every firework maker needed some royal sulfur to become a true artist. Illusions, Lila. Fire burns away all your illusions. The world itself is all illusion. Everything that exists flickers like a flame for a moment and then vanishes. The only thing that lasts is change itself. There is no royal sulfur, an illusion. Everything outside the fire is illusion. But the three gifts, I don't understand. What are the three gifts, Razvani? Whatever they are, you must have brought them to me, he said. And that was the last thing she heard from him, for as he said that, he dwindled away and the lake of fire darkened and became red rock, and then just rock. And all the myriad fire imps became little feeble sparks that floated aimlessly for a second and sank and went out at once. So even though they looked very fierce before, the adjective used now is feeble, which is quite weak, which means weak and timid. The grotto was bare again. Lila turned away from where the fire had been. She was dazed and disappointed, calm and curious, pleased and puzzled. And in fact, she didn't know what she felt or who she was for a moment. And I really like the contrast, the juxtaposition of these words that are beginning with the same sound. So dazed and disappointed, calm and curious, and then we've got pleased and puzzled. See if you can think of adjectives that are contrasting but begin with the same sound. Chulak, you saved my life and you're hurt. You're burned. Let me help you. He was shaking his head and tugging at her hand. Don't waste any time, he said. We've got to hurry. Tell her as we go, Hamlet. They stumbled out of the grotto into the pale light of dawn, and Hamlet said, I'm sorry, Lila. I heard the birds talking at the foot of the mountain, and they said, look, the white elephant. That's the very one who escaped from the city. And I asked the bird what he knew, and he said, the firework-maker helped you to escape. Someone saw and told the king, and now Lal Chand has been arrested and he's going to be executed. Then he flew away to tell the other birds. Lila, we've got to go back as fast as we can. Don't waste time blaming anyone. Get on my back and hold tight. So in a torment of fear that put Razvani and the royal sulfur and the three gifts completely out of her mind, Lila clambered up next to Chulak on the elephant's back and held on tight as Hamlet began to slither down the mountain in the light of dawn. And so we're going to find out, what's going to happen next, how much trouble is Lal Chand in, and how Lila, Hamlet and Chulak are going to perhaps save him or rescue him from the trouble that he is in. So that's the end of chapter 5, and I will be back with our next installment on chapter 6.